The agenda for today is to discuss about console input output operations permitted in C language. In particular, we are going to discuss about scanf and printf functions which are built in the C programming language. Before we discuss about input output functions, let us look at a typical sequence of operations in a C program. For that, as an example, consider a program to add two natural numbers. Here is an algorithm. Start and stop statements are there. First you read two natural numbers, then find the sum of them and store it in another simple C, and then you display the result. So this is basically what you do in this particular case. So we can try to now generalize. In general, a typical program structure is it reads first the input from the user. You read the input. Then from the input, you compute or obtain output. In this case, this is how you compute. But in general, it can be a complex process. And finally, you display the output. And every programming language should enable a programmer to perform these basic operations, that is reading input, computing output. You need to have all your operators available with you for performing it, and then you display the obtained output. For that you need operation permitted by the language. With this, we can try to understand what is the basic structure of a C program. As an example, consider a C program. Every C program must contain a function, namely main, M-A-I-N, main function. And you can see that the name main is followed by parenthesis within which you can have arguments. Later when we discuss about functions, we can see what are arguments. And the function body is included within curly braces. And here you are going to have a return statement. This particular function is supposed to return an integer, but it is nothing is returned. What is return statement? Why you need? That you can see later. And in all your program, you must need a main function, and the red colored part is going to be an integral part of all your program. It will start like this, and a return statement, and all these are going to be there, and what differs will be these statements. You need a statement to read input, one or more statements, then statements to compute output, and also statements to display output. So this is the basic structure of a C program. The red colored part is always there. Then you need statements first to read input, then you compute the output and display the output. And double slash says that this is a single line of comment in a C program. So it is taken as a comment. So even if you compile it, the program will compile. These are comments. C provides built-in functions to perform input-output operations. The agenda for today is to discuss about two such functions. And before we start discussing about built-in input-output functions, we can try to understand in general what are built-in or library functions in C. We can try to understand with an example. Before that, what are library functions? C language provides a number of built-in functions called library functions. And library functions are grouped into separate classes based on the type of functionality provided. Examples, there are mathematical functions, input or output functions are there in the C library. Another example is string processing functions. So, depending on the functionality, you can classify them like this. And just like the variable declarations, if you want to use a library function, you need to use declarations of the library functions as well. And the declarations of all the library functions are provided in header files. For example, the mathematical functions declarations are provided in math.h. H stands for header file. And the input output functions, the header file is stdio, standard input output. And for string processing functions, the header file is string.h. Later in this lecture itself, you can see how can you make use of these files. Now we can try to understand with an example what is the use of a library function in a C program. Suppose the programmer wants to print the square root of a number. Given a number, the programmer needs to get the square root. The C programming language provides a built-in mathematical function to obtain square root. So, no need to worry about it, just use it and find the square root. Here is a sample program which is making use of a square root function. Not that this C program is making use of the square root function within the main function, and hence the corresponding header file must be included. How will you include the header file? Hash include. I told you in a class that this is a preprocessor directive. It says that you include the header file for mathematical function. That means I am going to use some mathematical functions in my C program. And now, whenever a C program is executed, the execution starts with the main function. So, the program execution starts here, and the moment execution starts, memory is allocated for all the variables in the main function. So, that is true for every function. Just before executing that function, memory is allocated. Here you can see at least two variables, a decimal variable a, which is getting 2 bytes of memory allocated, and floating point variable square root a, which is getting 4 bytes allocated. Now suppose when you proceed execution, when you're coming to this line of code, maybe you got already the value 16 into this variable, and now you can see that in this line of code, we don't know what exactly this line is. Later you can see what is an assignment statement, but now assume that it is permitted, and this is what is called an assignment statement. In the RHS of the equal to, now you have a function call. It's a function call, and so that function is now going to be executed just like main. Now this function is executed. The moment that function is getting executed, its variables are getting memory allocated. You can see two variables at least, arg and res. Both are double precision variables. So 8 bytes of memory are getting allocated to arg and res. And what is this function called? When a function f1, in this case main, calls another function f2, in this case square root, the values of the arguments or variables of the calling function and here the only argument is dA. The value of the arguments passed to f2, passed to this function, are copied into the local arguments or variables or f2. So the local argument which is used to catch that value is getting memory allocated here, and whatever be the value of this variable which is 16 from the memory of main, that value is copied and it is stored into the corresponding argument in the function which is called. And not that, even if square root is waiting to get a double precision value, you can always pass a decimal value, which is allowed. Later you can see how is it allowed. Now, when you execute, assume that towards the end you got the square root of 16, which is for 0.0 in the result variable. Now this is a return statement. When you execute it, what happens is this. Return statement copies the value of the variable or expression, in this case res. The value is for 0.0. The value is copied from the memory of f2. From this memory area, 4.2 is copied and it is getting stored in a computer register. So 4.0 is stored in a temporary storage called register, so that now this RHS is replaced by this value. And when you progress, then this 4.0 is getting assigned to this variable. Variable is allocated here. When assigned means the assignment happens in the memory. So that is a function call. The take home is that the moment a function is called, it is getting allocated in memory, is what is called instance creation. Its variables are getting allocated and then the execution happens, and finally the return statement takes the program controller back to the called function, and you can use a return statement to return one value into the calling function. So this is the take home from this slide. Now let us try to understand input output functions in a C program. So you will be executing a C program in a computer. That program needs to read input from an input device, and later after computing the output, it needs to display the output using an output device. And the communication between input device and computer is enabled in the C program by providing what are called input functions in the C library. And the communication between, example input function is scanf, the communication between the computer and an output device is enabled in the C program by built-in functions known as output functions. Example, printf. These are the two functions that we are going to learn in this lecture. The first input function that we are going to learn is scanf. It's a general purpose library function for reading data. When I say general purpose, I mean you can read integers or floating point values or characters or strings using this function. Example, consider a program reading two integer values. So here is a part of that program, and because I am using an input function, I need to include the header file for that. Now the moment the main function is executed, the variables in that function are getting memory allocated. You can see at least two variables, UA and UB. You please don't worry about the syntax of this statement, that I will explain later. So these two are getting memory allocated, and we don't know what values are there. An unknown value 1 and unknown value 2 are there in these locations. And when the control comes to the scanf, which is a function call, don't worry about this. The function is called and hence an instance of that function is created in memory with memory allocated for its arguments, variables. Definitely because you are passing two arguments, which is unsigned variables a and b, at least two arguments must be here, which is not explicitly shown here. Assume that they are argument a and b. Now what are passed to it? We know that whenever a function call gets executed, the values which are now unknown values 1 and 2 are passed to it and is now stored in the local memory of the called function, which is scanf. Now suppose let us see what is this int. It says that the scanf function is going to return an integer. And what is it? It's not actually the input that you are going to read, but it is actually the number of input values that you are reading using the scanf function. In this case, it will be 2. Now, suppose you execute that function and the user is giving 10 and 20 as the two unsigned numbers. So, the arguments will get 10 and 20. Till now, everything is good, and now you have a return statement. When you execute the return statement, you know that the control gets transferred back to the calling function, which is main. Now note that nothing is explicitly returned. These values are not returned, and hence you are not actually able to get 10 and 20 here. See that the values of UA and UB, which is unknown, passed into this previously, and then into the local arguments of scanf, actually you read the values, but unfortunately you are not able to return it. Now the question is, how will you solve this problem? And the C language has provided a solution, and which is pass the memory addresses of the variable unsigned A and unsigned B. Rather than passing UA and UB, you pass ampersand UA and ampersand UB. Rather than passing the values, which is unknown 1 and 2, you pass the addresses, that is 100 and 104. Then what the scanf can do is, rather than storing the value 10 and 20 locally here, using these memory addresses, directly go to this memory and write 10 and 20 here. So that's what it can do, and that is how it is managed in the C programming language. Now what I said is, rather than passing UA and UB, just pass the addresses of unsigned A and unsigned B. You can see how it executes. Memory gets allocated for U and B as usual, unknown values, but when the control comes to this, rather than passing unknown values, now you are passing the addresses of UA and UB. So new function is being created in memory, and the arguments are now getting the addresses of these variables rather than their values, 100 and 104. Now when you finish executing this scanf, suppose the user provided 10 and 20 as input. Now the scanf function, by using these addresses, managed to store these values here into the local memory of the main function, and thus main function is getting the values 10 and 20 stored in the variables unsigned A and unsigned B. And the take home here is that whenever you use scanf statements to read values into the variables, you must have to pass addresses of the variables. Maybe you try when you execute your C program without addresses, and you can see what happens. Now we can see more formally what is the syntax of the scanf function. It is the syntax, don't worry. there is a string constant which is what is called a control string, which is a sequence of n character groups. Example will make it very clear, please don't get worried. And if there are n sequences, you can have n arguments. They are nothing but addresses of the corresponding variables you want to read. Example, here there are two groups of characters which is %d 2 times, and it stands for percentage is the control character. It says that I am going to read a decimal integer and the address of a decimal integer must be here, and so two decimal integers are going to be read. So addresses of two decimal integer variables are passed, separated with comma. Now we can see usage of scanf, various use cases. Here is the first example. I am reading two decimal integers. Suppose the user gives 10 and 20. What will happen? In the memory, for decimal variable v1 you are getting 10, and for decimal variable v2 you are getting 20. Not that you passed addresses of these variables. Another use case, now you are going to read a floating point value and a character value, that is f and c. Addresses you have to pass. Suppose the user gives 10.25 and capital B as input. So what will happen? In the memory, in the floating point variable v1 you will get this value, and in the character variable you will get this value. And here you note that there is a blank space in between these two control character groups, and this blank space is very relevant, it is necessary. Otherwise what will happen is, see, after 10.25 the user has given some blank spaces, and each blank space is a character. So if you are not using this blank space here, then the first blank space the user entered using the space key of the keyboard will be taken into the character variable. So the space will be taken. You can experiment with this in the lab and see. And this is what is called separation of that particular character. If you are giving any character in between two control groups, the same character any number of times will be ignored from the input. No need by heart, you practice it in the lab and see what is happening. Another use case, see here I am reading three decimal integer values, but they are separated with a hyphen. So similar to the blank space in the previous case, here it is a hyphen. So the hyphens will not be taken. If you look at, you can see that the values are taken into these variables and the hyphen is discarded because of the hyphen appearing here. Any character you can use here, and the same character appearing in the input will be ignored. And I think you can see why I need all these things. Maybe the user is inputting a number, sorry, a date. I am taking it as 3 decimal values in my program. That's fine. So this is what I said, matching characters in the control string, that's like minus, and input here are ignored. Another use case, here I am using a number between percentage and d. What is it? You see, I am reading 3 decimal values, these are the values. What is actually read is, to the first variable I am getting only 123 because 3 here means maximum of 3 digit, so 123. Then the problem is, the next digit, remaining digit will be taken as the next number. That is why in this next variable I am getting 4 rather than 23. So the next input is 23, and in this particular case 345 is ignored. So here it specifies the maximum field width. Another use case, here rather than a number I am using a star, that is the only speciality here. See, I am trying to read a decimal integer followed by a decimal integer followed by a floating point value. So here are the 3 inputs. See what happens. You can see that first is taken into the first variable, second is not taken, it is ignored. So this is actually a suppression character. The user will get a feel that I have given 3, but the programmer needs only 2. So without the knowledge of the user, you can suppress it. That is by using a star in between. You just practice it in the lab, then it will be clear to you. Now we finished a basic discussion on the input statement, and as a homework exercise you see which are the control characters after percentage. We have seen D for decimal integer, U for unsigned integer, then C for character, F for floating point. You see which all characters are permitted. Okay, refer to some book or any document and see. Now we are going to discuss about an output function. Printf is a general purpose library function for displaying data, just like scanf. Here it is for displaying data, but general purpose. You can display decimal integers or floating point or characters or strings. Syntax is here. Rather than scanf, the name here is printf, a similar control string and arguments. The only difference here is that arguments are not addresses but just variables or expressions, because here we don't want to get anything returned from or any effect that needs to be returned from the printer. Rather, just pass these values and just get it printed on the screen. Example is here. In the control string you say %d, meaning that I am going to display a decimal integer, and the variable you give in the other part. Use cases you can see. Here is the first one. Suppose you have a decimal variable in the memory and you are printing it using this statement. This is what you are going to get as output, just the value. So %d is replaced with the value of this variable. Now the use case, now you are printing a floating point value. That's the only difference. The value will be printed, but depending on the compiler, here it uses 6 decimal places after the dot. Another use case, here you are printing a decimal value, a single space after that, then a floating point value, a space after that, and a string. Arguments are a decimal variable, a floating point variable, and a string constant. If you execute, you will get this 25, which is the first variable, decimal, a space because of this space here, then a floating point value followed by a space. After that, this string is getting printed. Another use case, here you are saying, okay, sum of %d and %d is %d. Every %d will be replaced by a decimal value given by the expression here. So this is 10, this is 20, and this is 10 plus 20, 30. So you are getting sum of 10 and 20 is 10 plus 20, which is 30. Just do it and see how it prints. Another use case, here there is a single floating point value in the memory using this variable. I am printing it using F and E. What is the difference? F, I am just getting that printed. When I use E, I am getting like this using an exponent. Okay. Now, here there is a nice example. You can see that between percentage and D, I am saying 2.3. What's it? I don't know what is it. You just type it and see what is happening. So you have to see what are these numbers, say, and you do it as an exercise. And here as well, you see which all control characters are permitted, like D, C, H, etc. I am leaving that as an exercise. And now we have collected enough information from the C programming language for writing our first C program. We are going to write our first C program. Consider a program to read and display a number. Here is a program. Because I am using printf and scanf statements, I have to include standard input output header file, and not that these are essential parts in every program that you are going to write. And now, not that we have not used any strange statements here, we can verify. This is a declaration statement that we already know. Unsigned, a variable is declared. Then an output statement which we learned today, then an input statement followed by an output statement. So everything is okay. We have learned about all those things. Not that every statement is actually entered with a semicolon, and that is the syntax of C. Now when you start executing this program, the only variable is getting memory allocated, which is an unsigned value, and memory is allocated based on this declaration statement. That is the purpose of the declaration statement. And when you execute this output statement, whatever is in the double quotes is getting printed. So the control sequences are not used, so just the message is getting displayed, and the message is a command to the user that you just give me a value of unsigned integer. Now the program gets into the scanf statement. The scanf statement is executed, but it is an input statement, and to finish executing an input statement, the function must get that many input values, in this case a single input value, from the user. Until the user gives an input, it will wait for you to, or for the user to give a value. Suppose you as a user give the value 100. Now execution can progress to the next statement, which is a output statement. What is it? The value is percentage %u will be replaced by the value. Now you getting your output, and this is the first C program that we have written. So you go back and try to execute this C program with your compiler. So today we have seen the basic input output statements using the library functions scanf and printf, and we also have written our first C program. Thank you.